Hello and welcome to another Purveyor of Light Photoshop quick tip. Today we've got one from a customer that wrote in requesting about changing colors, and they said, they found several techniques on YouTube to change color on things of the items and that, and they worked okay, but on detail, okay, they didn't work so well. And he was looking for what my preferred method was for changing colors within Photoshop. And I thought that'd make a great video. And so that's exactly what we're going to cover today. When we want to have high quality, editing or fashion editing and things like that, these little details are very important. So when I look at the ability to have to change colors or shades or hues, I try to pick the best tool for the job, okay? And I may try different ones. And this is one that is not very popular. I'll be the first one to admit it, okay? But I find it gives me the best results. And that is the gradient map tool. The gradient map tool is one of my most secret tools that I use in my editing, and I get great results. Now, a lot of people have tough time understanding, but look at her lips. Okay, we're just going to use her lips as a simple example here. If you look at the lips, she has the color of the lipstick on her lips, right? And okay, that's really pretty, but look at the details. You have specular highlights, okay, here on the lower lip. Okay, on the upper lip, we have shadows in the crevices of the lips. So it's much more than just a color, okay? It's actually a mapping all the way from highlights all the way down to dark shadows. Or another way of saying it, from the lights to the darks, okay? And if anybody understands lights and darks, well, it's gradient maps, because that's the whole purpose of gradient maps, is to map a color over a specific range. Now, before I put you all to sleep, I'm going to show you here on a simple chart. Okay, so here's a simple chart, okay, where we have lights to darks, okay, and if you take a gradient map, okay, we went from a gradient by default to just, we're going to go white to black, okay? So in the shadows here on the left, it's black. All the way in the highlights, the brightest brights, is going to be white. And everything in between is going to be a gradual representation. And that's what's happened to the gradient, okay? If I turn this on and off, and you can see it actually altered a gradient chart because it maps with more precision, okay? And that's what most people don't pick up on, is that a gradient map actually is much more precise at moving shades and colors according to the luminance values. Okay, so now watch what's here when I open up the. Right now we're on a black to white. But if I just click just below in the middle, it opens up another point. And by default, it's putting up my default white. I can just double click on the square and I can select, say, a red. And now we can see what's happened here. Okay, the gradient map is now taking the highlights, the whitest whites is white, and the darkest darks is black. But in the middle, we're mapping red, okay? And you can see how that goes across this chart. Now, if I move the red point over to the shadows, look what happens. The red moves in accordingly to the shadows. And the more I do this, you can see the more the red is taking over into the shadows area. All right? And the same thing as if I go the other way, okay? I can introduce the reds into the highlights and the blacks take over more of the shadows. Okay, so it's very important to understand how a gradient map works. Okay, and now you'll be able to work with it in everyday things. So I'll go ahead and cancel this and get back to our image. So why a gradient map? Well, look at the lips. We've got shadows, we've got highlights, we've got detail, and all I want to do is change the color of the lips. And so let's go ahead and do this. Now, all you need to do is to do this is make a selection, and you can do that any number of ways. You could use the pen tool and just, highlight the lips. You could use the selective colors and do that, or you could manually brush it in with a quick mask. To save your time, I'm just going to simply go in, and I already have a selection saved. So I'm just going to load the selection, and we're going to just say, okay, we're going to bring in the lips. And you can see this is nothing more than just a predefined selection of the lip area for us. And that's just so you don't get bored watching me with the pen tool go around with the lips. All right, so now with the lips selected, I can bring up a gradient map. And there we are. Okay. Now by default, it's picking up whatever my palette was, and I'm black to white on the thing, and that's why it's selected it there. So if I double click on that, and I can say just bring it to black to white, and you can see, I'm going to bring this over here to the side. See, you can see we've turned her lips black lipstick, right? Now, the important thing here is I want you to see is look at the lips, okay? Look to see that white is still in the highlights and dark is into the crevices, into the shadows. That's the beauty of a gradient map, okay? And now, because we have mapped out the textures, the highlights, the shadows, and everything using the gradient map, changing the color or the hue is incredibly easy. And we get fantastic results. Okay, so here on the gradient map, I can just click right below in the middle, anywhere. Okay, now we have another point. Just double click on the point, and I could select a red. And boom, there we are. We have changed it. Now look at what we have done. We have still the highlights preserved. We have the dark crevices are preserved because we are still bringing in that detail of shadows and highlights. Okay, you can get fantastic. Now I could change this to anything. Let's go crazy. All right, I changed her lips to the blue, but again, you'll notice that we're keeping the highlights, the specular highlights, the shadows. Even though we're changing a hue, the gradient map is taking care of it for us. Now we come in and we can go crazy with the lips, but we can change it to any literally hue just by doing this technique. Okay? And that's the whole point of this, is to show you the power of gradient maps. And again, you can pick any color you wish. And it's that easy to change the lips to any color. And I think you get great results, okay, by doing this. And again, you can make adjustments by sliding this left or right, depending on how you want it into the lights or darks. And that's it, okay? So make a selection of the area you want affected. Make a gradient map, go from white to black to white, okay? You start there, select down below, and click to a third point right in the middle. Change it to the color that you want to have the lips. And you are done. And you've got a fantastic quality output where all the texture is still maintained. All the specular highlights that were there are still there. Everything is in a simple click, and it's extremely easy to do. So hopefully you found this useful. And again, this is my preferred method for actually changing colors and hues in a photo. I find the gradient map to be a very powerful tool with excellent results. So, till next week, you guys take care.